Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, people have been hitting me up in the Patreon and in the comments around how I respec into low life on my GC miner. So this is going to cover off on a fair bit. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so gearing wise, what did we change? What do we do? How do we do this? There's a lot of questions that people might be asking. This is going to be geared towards people who have a little less experience in the game as well, so I'm going to make this really very robust. So if I get to like 20-25 minutes, that's not my fault. It's just not as simple as one would believe to do this. Okay, so first thing in speccing to low life, and the first thing that you'll need to do is get a Shavs. The reason why we need a Shav Wrapping is number one, energy shield to start off with. Number two, this little note at the bottom which says chaos damage does not bypass energy shield. What that means is that chaos damage does not bypass the energy shield. So by default, chaos damage will always bypass your energy shield unless three conditions actually. So number one, you can use a Shav to negate that so that the chaos damage you take hits your energy shield and depletes energy shield. Number two, you can go chaos inoculation on the tree. In this circumstance, I would not do this because this build does not work well with chaos inoc, and we want to run 7 auras. So chaos inoc does not allow you to do that, so or not effectively. So ignore chaos inoc. And there's another item in the game called I think it's the Escher's Mirror, which is a shield that has the same effect here. Chaos damage does not bypass energy shield, but it's much less effective than the Shav Wrapping. Now, the Shavs isn't the greatest amount of ES you'll get on a chest piece, and in fact, mine isn't even max capped rolled. It can definitely be better, but I don't want to smash any more diviners until I've got like 10 divine orbs to do that. So 135% is good enough. The next thing that you're going to have to do is get some Cintrex stealth boots. The reason why we use Cintrex is because they give you an additional 148 max energy shield. In my case, that is almost max capped. So that means I get the most out of that. And I've got a max roll here. This one was 90 chaos. My Shavs was 4.5 exalt. Which in this league scale is relatively cheap. They're quite common. But you can get a 5-link for about 60 to 80 chaos as well. And by all means, 5-link will get you pretty far with what we're going to do. So the next thing that you're going to want to do with this build, at least what I did with my miner build, was I respec'd and used a Crown of the Inward Eye. Now the reason why, 21% increase to health, mana, global energy shield. Absolutely fantastic piece of gear and completely underrated in every possible way. It drops from Cyrus almost every time, with the exception of the few times where you probably get a good drop. But definitely from the very first time you do Cyrus, this will normally drop. It gives you transfiguration of soul, body and mind. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I haven't looked into it too much, but it gives you crazy amounts of energy shield off the bat. Also gives you 136 energy shield and 1000 armor. So really good item for that. The next key item that you're going to need is a Presence of Chayula. Now, these are a little bit XY, but basically this converts 20% of your maximum life to energy shield. Also gives you 60% to chaos resist. And you can't be stunned, so you're basically you're stun proof, which is fantastic for this build because stunning is bad. So that's another key item that you'll need to do this. The last really key item, now anything else in this build can be switched out, but the last key item that you'll need is a Prism Guardian shield, and they're about 2 chaos. Now normally this drops and everyone goes, hey, this is a useless shield, rah rah rah. Actually incredibly good. What it means is, because we're going to be speccing low life, and when we say low life, how we're going to get to low life is we're actually going to reserve our life with our biggest and most chunky auras to get to low life, and then we're just going to stack the shit out of ES over the top. Now, theoretically, you could do all of this and you could actually run a different shield and have a shitload of ES and a shitload of health, or a crap load of health, and go EHP. But it's actually not, it's not better, because in this circumstance we can stack 3 of our meatiest auras. So the benefit of this shield is it's +2 to socketed auras, which means your auras, if they're level 21, go to level 23, which is great. They are blood magic, so they reserve health. And socketed gems have 25% reduced mana reservation as well. And you'll see in the tree how we respec around mana reservation as well. And you also get 25% to all resistances, which is fantastic. So basically what we do here in the case of this build is we chuck in our hatred, our discipline, and our zealotry. It's going to increase our crit, cold damage, and give us our crazy amounts of ES, which is going to reserve our biggest auras against our health pool, which is why our health pool is reserved, but we have 6,500 ES over the top of that. Now, what else have I done in this build to push my pool up to 6,500? And it can go much higher than this, but the more you want it to increase, the more you need to level up, and the more that you need to actually min and max your gear, and even this is getting very expensive. So number one, my belt is crazy. I have a 20% quality crystal belt, which is an item level 82 belt. It's not the highest level it can go. But basically it's given me +74 to energy shield on the rolls. I can use aspect of the spider, but I'm choosing not to here. And it also gives me 94 to energy shield. So it's a huge amount of energy shield added into my build. Second thing that I've done is I've got some really good gloves here. These were about, I think I paid 1x for this. I paid 2x for my belt. These give me T2 rolls, T on resistances, T3 rolls on resistances, sorry. So they could even be better. And it also gives me increased damage with hits against chilled enemies, and obviously we're going to chill with GC, and so this is a critical item that you need to, basically a critical roll you need to get to beef your damage up. I've also got a roll for +33 to energy shield on this. So I get a decent chunk of energy shield out of these gloves, almost 100. Now you can get better gloves than these that have about 150, but you know, you might be paying like 20x or something like that for that, and it's just not worth it at that stage. It's negligible, that difference. Though some people would argue otherwise. The other thing that I've done, my ring setup. So, pardon me, I am using a Mark of the Shaper. And the reason why is the roll that you can see there, 87% increased spell damage if your other ring is an Elder item. So I actually have an Elder ring, which gives me all resist, 40 to energy shield, health regeneration, and yeah, that then buffs up and gives me 87% spell damage, which is fantastic, buffs up my damage hugely, and I'll get into the damage stats in the tree very shortly. Lastly, the last thing that I've done here is I've switched out my staff. Obviously I'm using a shield now, and I've actually went to a rune dagger. And the reason why is 40% increased global critical strike chance. Now this hasn't got the best rolls on it that it could have, but it has good rolls. So first of all, increased spell damage. You don't need cold damage over time, but it is preferred if you can get it. I've got cold damage 2 spells, which I think is a T1 roll here, so it does a lot of additional cold damage. I've got a T1 roll for increased critical spell strike chance 2 spells, and I've got a T1 roll for global critical multi. Now this was only, geez, what was this? This was like 2x, something like that. No, it was actually less than that because no one buys daggers. So, and that's the caveat here. No one was buying daggers, so it was dirt cheap. So anyway, you can do this with a mace, you can do this with a wand if you want to do it with a wand. It's completely possible to do it with that. I chose a dagger because you can get that global crit chance roll. Crit chance is what makes this build so good. What I've done second to this is I've then crafted from my bench, trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill. Now you can get this by doing the Jund missions and just, you know, continually running those until you get that bench craft, and that's the one bench craft we want, because when I now attack, I can use Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Frost Bomb. So as you can see, as I'm going, I'm throwing additional spells out there, and actually Cold Snap actually gives you a chance to 25% chance to generate frenzy charges when an enemy dies while in the skills area, which basically means I can generate power charges and frenzy charges on this build, and it's absolutely insane. So anyway, yeah. Now the other things that you'll need to get this to work, or the way that I've built my tree, and this, everyone has a different way of doing this. Now you don't need a Watcher's Eye for this build. I didn't use a Watcher's Eye. I didn't find it to be very good. But I did get an energy from within, a 6% roll. These were like 80 chaos. They're not cheap, but they're worth it. Mine actually is corrupted for a 4% increased damage roll, so it's quite good. The other thing I did was I got a Thread of Hope, and I actually linked up all of these spells in the radius of the Thread of Hope to push up my damage, my ES, base, and also my attribute points as well. And I also can't be, there's a 25% chance of avoidance of interruption when I cast, which is a really good defensive means, because the last thing you want to do is get hit by something, stop casting, and then just get face rolled by a boss. So anyway, that's what I've done here, and you'll need a large ring to do that. Now you can get these with better rolls. I haven't worried about it. I'm not losing sleep over 16%, but I can craft that out anyway at any time. That's pretty much the starting point of how to switch to ES. Now I've got no other jewels here aside from, you know, ones that push up my Aura Resist and critical strike multi. Pretty much critical strike multi is what you want in everything here. I'm still using my Guerrilla Tactics medium cluster jewel with Surprise Sabotage, and I've got another jewel here that gives me 8% increased maximum energy shield, and arguably you could do the same down here. I do switch this out with a Corrupted Blood jewel when I fight Cyrus. Now this one I've done A7 Cyrus with pretty damn easily. You would have seen it in the B-roll at the start. I can pretty much face, tank, and take on every single endgame boss at this stage with no problems whatsoever, and we'll get into the reasons of how I'm doing that. Now, to give you an idea of the DPS of what this is now pushing out, this is the POB. The POB is now saying that my final burst, 23 active mines, which is what I can push out on this build, can do 1.18 million DPS per final burst. So initial burstings, nearly 400k per initial burst. Incredible amounts of DPS, and absolutely disgusting when versing bosses. Pretty much you throw down the mines and you just almost 1 or 2 hit bosses now, and you would have seen that in the B-roll at the start, so it's very powerful. That's the gearing. So that's pretty much how you're going to respec into low life and get it working. Now, gem setups. Obviously, as discussed, I run the 3 skills in my dagger. Cold Snap, Frostbite, Frost Bomb. That's so when I'm triggering my spells, they trigger at the same time and I generate everything. Now, in my chest, I'm actually running Glacial Cascade, Hypothermia, because that does additional cold damage over time, and it chills enemies, and then you do additional damage to chilled enemies, which then synergizes with my gloves. I'm also running high impact mines. The reason why is they have a chance to do double damage up to 100% as you're throwing mines. So the more mines you throw, the more damage they do, and it's just insane. So incredibly good gem. Definitely switched to that from Blast Chain. Was a much bigger increase to DPS. I am now running Minefield, but I don't have the problems that I was having previously with speed. So, and I have it 23% level 20 roll. Yeah, it works quite well. Inspiration, obviously we want to generate those inspiration charges. I think someone asked me the question about, oh, but inspiration doesn't work with mines. It does work with Glacial Cascade. And the critical strike chance and the elemental damage continue to scale your build up. So it's you definitely need that for your build. And also reduces mana cost as well, which is good. And then trap and mine damage, pardon me, which is pretty much a given. Flasks, the only 2 that I would recommend you definitely need, Taste of Hate and Diamond Flask. Mine actually has movement speed, so I don't need Quicksilver. And I also use an Series Promise that just ups your damage further and gives you Chaos Resist. And as you can see, I am max capped. So when I pop that, I then get 35% Chaos Resist, so it makes me pretty chunky and I don't die to shit straight away. Okay, so I guess build tree. So for this, I'll bring up the POB. So there's some noticeable changes from when we last looked at this. First of all, I've removed all of the nodes down here for phasing or phase acrobatics and then phase acrobatics and everything. We're not running dodge anymore, we don't need dodge. It's pretty much useless at this stage because we have such a big pool of ES that it doesn't make any difference, so we don't need it. So pretty much you're gonna, from the old tree, you're gonna unwind all of these nodes. The other thing is I should also add on my amulet now, I have efficient explosives mapped, and what efficient explosives does is it reduces the mana reservation of mines that you throw, so you don't really need to run a mana regeneration skill anymore. It's just really good. And there's also a 10% chance that the mines will detonate an additional time, and 25% increased mine damage, which is nice as well. Anyway, so pretty much with this, you're going to be building up the same way as before. You're going to pick up these nodes in here for the assassination, for crit and saboteur, because we're a saboteur, so it makes sense, you know, common sense approach there. Then we're going to come up, we're actually going to pick up Pain Attunement. Because we're running low life now, we can get 30% increased spell damage, which is going to proc on our Glacial Cascade. Bob's your uncle. Glacial Cascade is a spell, you're getting 30% increased damage to that spell. That's where a lot of our damage comes from. Then we're going to pick up these nodes to get up to melding. Now you'll notice it's not showing in the POB here because we socket energy from within here to push these up. So if we have a look in the actual tree here, and what I might actually do is go by this tree so you can see. So now instead of getting 4%, you get 8%, 8%, 8%, 16% to energy shield, because this doubles the increases and reductions to life are transformed into energy shield in the radius. So that basically makes these complete ES nodes, so we can push our ES up further. Then we're going to come down, we're going to pick up Foresight. That's going to give us a crazy amount of more ES, that's where our ES is coming from. Pardon me. So then we'll come up, we'll pick up the Throat Seeker crit nodes up here, we'll pick up the successful detonations nodes here. You'll note that I don't need to use any of these supplementary nodes. The reason for that is the min-maxing I've done on my Cintrex to get enough dexterity, and I've got 30 strength on my belt. I've managed to get attributes on everything so that I wouldn't need to basically roll any of that on my tree, so I could free up those nodes. So this tree is very min-maxed. You're probably not going to achieve that straight away. It took me a little bit to do it. It took me about 2 days to get that right. So don't be frustrated. Don't get frustrated if you don't get this first up. It is not an easy tree to min and max. Trust me, it took me a while. That guy is crazy. There's another dude at 12,000. So then we're going to come up, we're going to pick up our volatile mines, we'll pick up our influence here. This is going to increase the effect of our auras. And I haven't even went into auras, I just went straight into tree. I completely got sidetracked with the build. This isn't a build guide per se, I'm just going to run you through. So I'll go through the tree and then I'll go through the aura setups as well. So we're going to pick up reduced mana reservation here. Then we'll come down, we'll pick up Written in Blood. We'll keep our Doomcast nodes. We want to get Blast Cascade. That's going to start generating power charges for us. So that's how we get our power charges. Then we're going to come down, get Soul Thief. That's just basically for the 12% ES. And then we're going to pick up all these mine nodes here and also a dual socket here because dual sockets are good. Then we'll come up. Now the cluster jewel you don't really need. You can do without that. I would suggest to have it because guerrilla tactics is good, but if you do feel like you don't need it, don't get it. You can reallocate these to somewhere else in the tree if you need more ES or however you want to play. Anyway, then you're going to come across, you're going to get Arcane Will, and then we're going to come up and pick up Prodigal Perfection. That's just going to increase our spell damage even further. Then we'll come up and we'll pick up this dual socket. So now we want to get our large Thread of Hope. These are relatively cheap. They're like in the 10 to 20 chaos range or less. So then we want to start allocating all the nodes around here. So we want to pick up Breath of the Rime, which increases our cold damage further and our cold dot. Then we want to pick up Heart of Ice. That gives us more cold damage and gives us cold penetration, which we want that. Then we'll pick up into Utmost and Intellect. And the reason why we pick up this Int node is this is going to push up our tree, for our pool of ES even further. So we definitely want Intelligence to do that. Then we'll pick up Snowforged. Again, resistance, crit, cold damage. What could go wrong? Then we'll pick up Arcane Focus. That increases our energy shield and recharge rate further. We'll get Deep Wisdom, more energy shield, more mana, more intelligence, which equals more mana energy shield. And then we'll get Practical Application. That's going to increase our strength and dex to meet our minimum requirements and also give us the 25% chance to avoid interruption from stuns while casting. So it makes us a lot more tanky. It means we can start ripping off these nodes in the tree here and make our build a lot more easily versatile to the different gearing options available to us. So then we'll go to the left, we'll pick up Unnatural Calm. That's going to increase our ES further. We'll come down, we'll pick up Arcane Potency. That just increases crit for spells. Keynode here, Zealot's Oath. We need this because then life regeneration is applied to energy shield. You'll notice I have a health flask here. I don't need the health flask. I have the health flask because I'm lazy and I get frustrated when I have to go between locations to reset my health pool if I turn my auras off. So, because we have no health regeneration and we basically pretend like health is just a reservation tool here. If our ES runs out, we are dead. So, yeah, ignore health for the sake of this build. It exists solely for the purpose of getting to 7 auras. So then we'll come down, we'll pick up all these nodes here to get the Sovereignty. Then we want to come and pick Faith and Steel, and then we'll get Divine Judgment. That gives us flat 50% elemental damage increase, which is awesome. And then we'll pick up Divine Fury. That just means we do physical damage as extra fire damage and more physical damage. And because Glacial Cascade scales cold damage and hatred scale cold damage or physical damage, which we do physical damage from our dagger, then that means that our damage will increase further. That's pretty much the tree. Either POB will be in the description. If you have questions about the tree, type it in the comments. I'll explain it. It is somewhat tedious to get your head around if you've never played ES before, but if you follow the POB, if you follow this video, it will be relatively easy. And ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer questions for this. This build will actually apply to the vast majority of low life spellcaster builds. You could probably play this with most spellcaster builds and not have any problems whatsoever with moving it around. Realistically, all you're going to be doing is reallocating the mine nodes to spellcasting nodes or, you know, dagger nodes or whatever. So you could realistically play this tree with most builds. So it's very homogeneous, very easy to work with. It's pretty much a skeleton tree to any build that's low life. Basically, they're all the same. Alright, so gem setups. Oh, throat's a bit sore. Alright, so in my Helm, I've got a cast when damage taken setup, and I run Frost Shield as well, because that gives me extra survivability. Frost Shield is amazing. Doesn't require, it's not a guard skill, so it'll trigger when you cast when damage goes off. Your Immortal Call pops, and you'll have basically a double defense buff, so definitely worth running. I've already went through the gem supports in the chest. The shield, we're going to run Hatred, we're going to run Discipline, and we're going to run Zealotry. That means we're reserving our life pool, which gets us 30% increased damage from our Pain Attunement node in our tree. And then in the gloves, we want to run Skitterbots, Bone Chill, and Infernal Legion. And the reason why we run all of those three is actually because of this Explosive Expert node here. So enemies that are burning, you get increased crit multi. Enemies that are shocked from your Skitterbots, you'll get 80% increased chance of crit. And then enemies that are chilled, you get 10% elemental resistance penetration. So we hit every single one of those sweet spots with our skitterbots now. So our skitterbots are little psychopathic mofos. They're awesome. The next thing is I run Righteous Fire, Val Righteous Fire. That's just to buff up spell damage. And then on our boots, we'll run Vitality. That's going to give us further regen. So the regen that we get is base 456, but the total recharge is 3000. As we drop our mines, it goes up to 1100, which means you have crazy amounts of regen. It means you can take out Shaper, everything. You can just walk into a corner and regen in 2 seconds, and you're good to go. Literally 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, if you want to call it that. I'm literally recording the video now, Eddie. So then, yeah, and you'll want to get dash. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's how you respec into low life. If you've got any questions, put it in the description below. I'll provide the POB. I'll give you the gear list in the video description as well for all the key items that you'll need. Have a look at the POB, just respec to that. You should be able to get the same result that I've got here. It will take a little bit of currency. It's about 15, 20, 25 exalt to get this working, at least reasonably, and then min and maxing is up to you how you want to do it from there. Anyway, if you like this video, like and sub. If this video helps, that is. Follow my Patreon if you're keen to check that out too. And if you dislike this video, well, don't know what to say. But until next time, bye.